Hey, what's going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 5 of my The Walking Dead Telltale Adaptation series, where I'm going through and writing my own series based off of the Telltale Games storyline with Clementine, Lee, and all those great characters. We are, of course, on Season 1, Episode 5, which is titled Impressions. So, we left off with the bandits in the woods attacking Mark and Lee. They were behind a tractor, and Mark was suddenly shot in the back with an arrow. And of course, Carly and Jordan are on the way back to the motor inn to give them some of the food and then let them know that they can go head over to the ranch or the dairy farm to have a nice meal. So this episode starts off with a little scene that was going to be kind of confusing to viewers at first, but it's about a family sitting around a campfire. The names of these characters are Adam and Jolene, and their two kids, Johnny and Claire. Adam is the same look and same overall character as the stranger that took Clementine at the end of Season 1. Jolene is the same character that we see going crazy in the game, and I'm giving them some personality. They have two kids, Johnny and Claire. They are cooking beans in the fire, and Adam and Jolene tell their two kids the story about how they met. Suddenly, they hear a noise from the woods. The screen goes black, and all we hear is screams and yelling. And later on, Adam, Jolene, and Johnny are sitting around that same campfire. They are sad and torn up with cuts and bruises, and Claire is nowhere to be seen. This whole thing will come into importance later. Lee and Mark stay behind cover behind the tractor as arrows continue to be shot in the area. They use the tractor as cover as they release the brakes on it so they can get the hell out of there. They're on kind of a bit of a hill, sort of, so the tractor kind of rolls forward down the hill as they're moving with it as cover. The bandits stop firing and retreat as walkers come in the area. Jordan and Carly return to the motor inn to inform the others about the dinner. Carly says she'll stay back and protect what they have at the motor inn, considering they give them enough supplies to last a meal or two anyways. Jordan offers to stay back as well, and Ben and Travis stay back too. Lily, Larry, Clem, Kenny, Katja, and Duck listen to Carly's instructions on how to get there, and they head off. She tells them to be very careful out there because of obvious bandits, and Kenny is freaked out at first, but Carly tells him not to worry and that they're not harmful as long as you don't, do anything. Lee and Mark return to the dairy farm just as the others get there. They all become worried for Mark and for themselves since Lee explains that bandits attacked them. Kenny's freaking out, and then he tells Lee tells Andy and Danny that they were yelling something about not following their deal. Brenda takes Mark inside to take a look at his shoulder wound and to patch him up. Danny says that the bandits have never done something like this to them before. He says they'll follow through with their deal forever, and it must have been another group or something that they wanted. Danny also adds on that he'll go talk to them back at their camp, which is at a depot store called Small Lots. He offers if Lee wants to come along so they can meet him and make sure there's no problem between them, Kenny says he'll come along as well, and Clem asks Lee why he's leaving again, and he says he needs to make sure that they are safe here. She also asks why Mark is hurt, and Lee says some people shot him with an arrow, but he'll be alright, and that it was all a misunderstanding. Clem goes with Duck and Katja on a tire swing. Lily talks to her father and also talks to Lee and says she doesn't know if this place is a good idea to be at. Larry says we question things after we eat, not before. Larry gives Lee a warning to not mess anything up in the meantime. Danny packs up his stuff and Kenny and Lee follow along to the bandits' camp. Back at the motor inn, Jordan and Carly eat the food that was given, including sandwiches and biscuits, even a ton of cans of beans. Ben and Travis come along and have some of the food with them. Carly asks Ben and Travis about themselves since they should probably all get to know each other a bit. Ben tells them about the marching band and that they were here for one of the away football games for their college. He says Mr. Parker was their band teacher. Travis says that they were all held up in a school since during the game that's when people started getting sick and turning within the crowd. It was terrible. They had to end the game early and everything. One girl's parents were both killed in the stands during that day, and she couldn't take the pain of losing her parents, so she went to the bathroom and took a bunch of pills, and she died. And then she turned, and when other girls went in, they were attacked. And that's when I knew it wasn't the bite that did it, and that you turn no matter how you die, because she was not bitten. Jordan talks about his basketball career and dreams and how they're basically over at this point. Carly says she thinks they should all have hope that someone will find a way to turn things back to how it was, even if it's not them who does it. And she has no unearthly idea how that even be possible, but that doesn't matter to her. She just wants it to be over. Lee, Kenny, and Danny make it to the bandits' camp. They are approached by a man with a crossbow at the gate. He asks what the hell they want, as Gary comes up to the gate and tells the guard to put the crossbow down and that it's no way to treat guests. And it's actually a horrible way to, give a first impression. Danny says that Gary's people attacked some new friends of theirs outside of their dairy farm. Danny wants to know why that was necessary. Gary said that no one was trying to kill anyone, but it was more of a show of force. He says they didn't get their weekly supply drop from them. Danny says he knows he brought it to the drop zone, but Gary says it wasn't there, and that he doesn't care if it wasn't there because someone stole it. All he cares is that he didn't get it. Danny apologizes and says he will bring a new supply with double the contents tomorrow morning. Gary thanks him as they leave, and Lee questions Gary quickly why he shot his people since they weren't even involved previously. Danny gets a pissed off face for Lee to even bother questioning him at all. Gary asks who the hell is this, and Lee answers with his name and says that his friend here is Kenny. He says they don't want trouble, but he says it would have made more sense to show that force towards them and not some new group. Gary gets up in Lee's face and tells him to go. They leave. Danny gets pissed as Lee as they are headed on the way back. Lee says he can't let people like this push them around like that. Danny says they could, but their system's working just fine. Danny decides to stop at the drop zone really quickly, which is at this little river under a mini cave in the woods. They check it out, and he notices nothing there. But he tells Lee and Kenny to look around for clues, because he has to find who the hell took this. Lee and Kenny go look around for a bit. Danny finds footprints in the dirt, and he decides to follow it. He goes around a corner of a mountainside, and he is abruptly attacked by two walkers. He yells for help. Lee and Kenny come running. Danny is able to get one of them off, but the other one tackles him to the ground. Lee takes his Glock and shoots the walker in the head. Kenny goes to the other one and stabs it through the skull with his knife. Lee helps up Danny as Danny notices writing inscribed on the side of the mountain rocks. It says, "You took what's mine, so I'm taking what's yours." Lee notices a marker on the tree. Kenny then sees that the same marker is on a tree a little further away. Danny says they have to follow it, see what's happening. They end up following to a mini campsite. Danny notices that all the boxes around the camp are from the dairy farm, and it's the same boxes they used for their supplies to give to the bandits. He realizes that whoever this person is has been stealing a lot more of their shit. Whoever it is at this campsite, obviously. Lee also finds Clementine's hat in a tent next to a bloody teddy bear. Kenny asks how the hell that got there, and Lee says he has no unearthly idea. Danny finds a tape recorder, but he says the battery is dead. When Lee asks about it, he says he'll do it himself. He'll, forget about it. He kind of just brushes it off, the whole idea of him finding this tape recorder, and tape's still inside of it. Someone approaches the area and pops out. Her name is Jolene, the lady we saw at the beginning of the episode. She's carrying a crossbow, and she looks insane. She yells at Danny specifically and says that he took her from them, and now this is payback. Lee asks what the hell she's talking about. She then goes on about killing them and that she's going to string their balls to the tree. Danny ends up saying fuck it and shoots Jolene right in the head. Lee and Kenny get shocked by what just happened. Danny says she was crazy and honestly did her a favor there. Lee looks at Kenny with a worried face as they gather some boxes and head back. The sun starts to set as they arrive back to the farm. Clem, Katja, Duck, and Andy sit in the barn around the cow named Maybelle. Clem hugs Lee when she sees that he has returned. Lee gives her the hat back and asks again if she saw anyone by the motor inn, and she says no, she just left it on a table one of the nights in front of the motor inn, and she got back and it wasn't there. Kenny starts looking around. He goes outside with Lee and Lily. Kenny and Lee tell Lily what happened on the trip. They say that they were almost certain that Danny is hiding something. Lee tells Kenny that they can't go on a witch hunt before dinner because what if it turns out to be wrong? Then they just screw their chances of getting food. Kenny replies with saying if it's something bad, he doesn't think they should stay here for any more time. Lily agrees that they should look around, but on the down low. Larry continues to sweet talk Brenda as she lets him know that Andy and Danny's cousins are busy working on the dinner at the moment. Lee talks to Lily in private for a bit after Lily asks him to have another moment to talk. She tells Lee that her father may be a complete asshole sometimes, and that's really just because he cares about her, and he doesn't want anything happening to her. She apologizes for anything he says or does, but just know he's a good guy on the inside. She also mentions that she knows about Lee's past because Larry told her. She says she doesn't really care. She won't tell the others. She explains about something that happened to her where she was with a friend and the friend was drunk driving and Lily allowed her to drive like that and she ended up killing a whole family in a car accident. Lily says she blames herself for this. She obviously didn't get hurt, but her friend did and killed the whole family. Lily blames herself for this all this time, and she knows what it's like to take a life, even if it's not directly or, purposeful, because she kind of took their lives, even though it wasn't her who got in trouble for it. Lee says he never wanted to kill the man, but his rage just took over. He thanks her for staying quiet and then leaves. He then goes and looks through boxes of supplies that they brought back from the campsite. Lee doesn't really find anything useful other than supplies and food. Lee sees the camcorder on the table and decides to search for batteries within the boxes as well and puts them together so he can get it working. Kenny looks around the barn and finds a door with a lock on it. Andy's in the barn, so he doesn't think about trying to open it, but he ends up having a conversation with Andy about the cow. Kenny asks him about the bandits and if they pose any major threat to them. Andy says to not worry about them since they have a good deal with them. They won't attack or anything. The camcorder doesn't even turn on. Lee realizes the batteries might be dead. He goes over to Brenda and Larry and asks if they have any powered batteries since he's got a radio back at the motel that he wants to get working. She says she'll get it to him when they leave because she doesn't feel like searching through all her supplies drawers at the moment, so maybe after dinner. Chris comes outside and says that dinner is ready. Brenda calls out to everyone else. As they all are heading up to the house to go get dinner, Kenny quickly grabs Lee to the side and tells him about the door. He hands him a screwdriver from the workstation by the barn and tells Lee that he'll make an excuse for him, but hurry up and open that damn door. He found one in there. It's got a lock on it. Replace it after you're done if it's nothing, but just hurry up and do it. Lee hurries to the door after Andy leaves the barn. He's kind of confused about this whole thing, but he sneaks around to do it, and Kenny said he would obviously make an excuse for him. He goes into the barn and slowly takes the screws off the lock. It's a very tense sequence as he's kind of looking back behind him again and again to make sure no one's back there. He takes all the screws off, gets the lock off, and then slowly opens the door. All we see is a close-up on Lee's face. We don't see what's in the room. And Lee gets a shocked face, like a shocked look, right? And he goes, holy shit. And then boom, cut to black. That's the episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Episode 6 is very, very good. This was one of my favorites. This episode 6 is like the stellar episode of the season. I really enjoyed writing episode 6. So hopefully you guys are ready for that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.